Hey, wine mermaids. This is the Peace, Love, and Wine podcast, bringing you happy hour conversations with awesome women on self-care, sisterhood, and creative living to reduce stress and maximize joy. Life is short, so grab a glass and get ready to sip, sparkle, and make a splash. Make sure to visit peaceloveandwine.com and enter your email to receive VIP deals and get your free self-care download. Now, here's your wine sister hostess with the mostest, Tiffany Humfeld.
Hello, welcome to the Peace, Love, and Wine podcast. I'm here with my lovely guest, Kristin Giese. Hi, Kristin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm so excited you're here. And
thank you.
You're welcome. You have a very interesting career that I think a lot of people probably aren't that familiar with if they're not in the entertainment industry. So you're a talent brand manager, correct?
Correct.
And you are now newly an author, which is super exciting.
Exactly. Yes, I know. It feels like for the first time I've been representing talent for the lion's share of my career. First, I started as a publicist, and then I grew into talent management and then into being a producer. And I've always been the one to scout talent, pick out talent, advise talent. And now I'm actually having to sometimes look at myself in the mirror and give myself the advice that I've been giving to them and try and talk myself into believing the lines that I've told to my clients. So it's a new moment and a new time.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of the talent now, right?
Yeah. Which is really strange. In fact, I was just realizing how often I don't lead with the fact that I wrote a book. I still, when people ask me what I do, I say I'm a talent manager and producer. And then I say, oh, and an author, I wrote a book, which is horrible. Like, that's like, if I saw my clients doing that, I would say like, you better stop, flip it, and reverse it. Hello. Like, this is not how you brand yourself, but it still feels like a very new muscle for me to flex.
Yes. And the book, we should mention the title, is Unverified, right?
Yes,
your first
yes,
novel.
Yes.
And so I definitely want to get into that in a few minutes. But can we just talk a little bit about how you got into this crazy world of entertainment and starting your own brand too with it? That's a whole other ball of wax, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I started my career. Well, first of all, I went to school to be a speechwriter, and then realized very quickly after I graduated, as I was graduating, that I couldn't really be a speechwriter. My senior year, we all had to give a presentation, and everyone else but me hates most everyone hates public speaking. And I realized in college, I kind of enjoy this. And, so it was down to me and only one other person that were in my senior level class. Because everyone else hates public speaking, our professor gave all the undergrad, younger classes just coming up extra credit if they would come see our, what would you call it? Like our senior test of a midterm. And so the room was full. And we were all given our topic, and my topic was gay rights. And we had to give a brimstone and fire speech. And we had one note card, and a brimstone and fire sort of caboose speech is when your candidate would pull into the station, stand on the back of the train in olden days, give their speech to everyone standing around. People would cheer, and then the train would pull out and the candidate would go to the next town. So I had everything planned. And right before we went on, the professor said, okay, change of plans, new candidate, new philosophy. You now are against this topic. And I was like, okay, I'm going to recalibrate based on all the research that I did for how to build my speech in the other, and which was my natural inclination anyways, because I'm a very liberal person. But now I went into challenge mode. Okay, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to present this. I'm going to take this on. And I said, well, are you going to let them know these aren't our personal beliefs? And she said, well, yeah, okay, I'll let them know just to see if they find you believable. So I got up there and started, and a girl came in and sat. She was late and sat down. And so I gave my speech. And as the professor was coming up to me and saying, you did a great job, here's where I think you excelled, here's where I might take a few points off, the girl who had come in came up to me and said, wow, you helped make up my mind. And I was no, I've just made a bigot. Like, this is horrible. And I realized, oh, I can't do this. I can't have this be, what I go out in the world and do. Words are so powerful. And so wow. When you go to school to be a speechwriter, you sort of are taught to be a used car salesman. I mean, it's like, I don't know how else you use this skill. And so then it wasn't even that PR was a major. So I found myself falling into PR just because of the natural skill set that I had learned in this major. So first I became a publicist. Then I grew because I was giving lots of advice to my clients that they were taking and making money off of. And unlike many women who struggle to discuss money, I do not. So I was able to say to them, hey, this is not a high school yearbook. You need to pay me for these services. So then I morphed into talent manager. And then as time went on, it was just trying to get, because I was I was in the reality expert space. And, it's hard to get people on television. So I was coming up with concepts for my talent to be on television. And so I morphed into being a producer. Plus we were advising as PR. You're producing segments. We had a client who was on Oprah. We were actively participating in all of the segments that he was doing. So you really are getting a very extensive vocabulary in these areas of PR, marketing, branding, deal development, all of these different things, which now as an author give me a language that I think a lot of authors maybe don't possess, of how to do a contract, how to get into an entertainment company, how to talk to them about your format or your concept. So it's been interesting now trying to pluck from the ether all these things that I've learned and apply them for a change for me, which oddly has felt easy in the sense that not easy, the process, but like, oh, we'll use this.
I have the tools, right?
Yeah. But then it feels a little bit like an apprentice who learned in the shop and now has their own van. And the first time they're at someone's house and it's like, oh, your water tank's exploding. You're still nervous because it's like, wait, I have to do this on my own. There's no one else to do it. Where's the teacher? So it still feels natural and yet not natural. So it's a new dance.
Yeah. How interesting. So are you planning on I know you have lots of ideas and plans, but do you intend to transition out of the talent management side of things eventually, or are you wanting to do both?
It's so interesting. So as I've been out there talking about the book, I've been having this question has been coming up, and I recently learned a word that is, I think it's called being a polymath, which is someone like an Albert. I read an article on it. Albert Einstein, who played the violin very well, or most Nobel Peace Prize winners have multiple talents that they're very successful at and could be in multiple lanes. And I think I'm a little bit like that, where everything is interconnected. So there's so much of what I do as a talent manager that actually is baked into the book, having produced so much content that gets baked into the scenes that inform it. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely am turning the ship for this other element to be seasoned more and come out more. But I really love brand building. I mean, when you develop a line with someone and you hold their tag with their name on it in your hands for the first time, and you're like, soon we're going to walk into a Target store in every state, in every city in America that has a Target, and your product's going to be on their shelves. That's a pretty amazing feeling to be able to have and created some of those opportunities. And so that, like anything, you want that high again of like, okay, wait, who else can I do that with? Let's make that happen. So it would be hard for me to do away with that, but I think I definitely want to find a way for all these areas to grow and make room. I feel like it's a little bit like new moms, although I don't have children, so I have no business saying this, but my friends who have children, when they're pregnant for the second time, are like, but how will I love the second baby? I'm like, come on, calm down. You're going to love both kids. How will my heart have enough room? It's like, oh my God, what? Come on. But I feel that way. Like my heart definitely has enough room for all these things that I'm doing that I'm passionate about.
That's awesome. And when you started in the PR, you were working at the Improv in Chicago, was it? Did I read that right?
Well, I worked at the Cleveland Improv before moving to Chicago. And then I just up and moved to Chicago because I felt like the comics were coming through, and it was in a room. So we had Dave Chappelle and Seinfeld, we had amazing comics that came through, and I would take them out for their morning media and spend time with them. And so getting to make them laugh, getting to talk with them, they one by one started to say to me, oh, you should be a publicist. You should live in New York or LA and do this. You should focus on comics, which at the time, I mean, now we all know comedy is having such a renaissance with, in one respect, it's so complicated because there's never been more of a need for political correctness. But at the same time, there is even more Netflix specials and Amazon specials for comics. And so living in Los Angeles currently, when you drive past the Comedy Store, every night, it's like 18 comics are headlining that all have Netflix specials. So they're all clearly practicing new material, trying to get those gigs. But then it wasn't the same. And so I thought, how would I make a living doing PR just for comics? Comics can sometimes be very funny on stage and very dark or verbose off stage or acerbic. And so it's like, I don't even think half of you guys like me. And then it was all men with really poor behaviors and that you were putting up with at 6 a.m. and some guy like trying to put his hand on your knee or something. You're like, oh, I don't think so. So now I feel like, oh, why didn't I do that? But so everything has its course. And now that I recently did stand up for the first time myself. So I feel like it's all, again, it's full circle moments just over and over again.
And how was that experience? Was it terrifying and fun?
It was empowering for sure. For me, I've always been funny and a storyteller, but that's very different than doing stand up, obviously. So I was unsure of what it would be like. But it was kind of an amazing opportunity. I signed up for a comedy camp, not realizing that we would all do stand-up at the end of it. And I knew that we would learn something, but I didn't know she was going to book a room and we would actually be on stage doing it. And I thought, well, I signed up for it. I'm going to do it. And so this last year has been such lessons because I like to say what I do professionally feels like an inhale. It's my gut. It's natural. It's evaluating an instinct for do this, not that. Writing the book felt like my first exhale, which is just that much easier. Just like, ooh, now we're leaning into it. And it felt a feeling of, oh, I want to do that again. And then doing the stand-up felt like, I flew to Paris and thought I was just going to go on vacation. And then I got there and I was like, oh, I speak French. Like I'm like beret wearing, French bread toting, France. And I didn't know that I could do that. And so again, it has created something that I think a lot of people are held back by this idea of, I'm afraid to do it because I might fail. And I've never suffered from that because I fail every day. And you only get to the rise if you've had the fall sometimes. So I'm in it for that. But I realize that there's something harder because I don't fear failure. And that is when you do something and you realize, oh, I definitely have to do that again. That to me is where the pinch is, because that's how you turn your life upside down when you write a book and you go, oh, smack. I got to figure out how to write another one of those and funnel it and fuel it and do it because I can't not. How do you fuel that passion? How do you be tireless and unrelenting when you're already tired from everything else in life? And it felt like that with the book, and it felt like that with the stand-up. And so now, it's not like in Los Angeles, especially when every comedian is vying for the next Netflix special, you're not going to suddenly just get time on the Comedy Store stage, just like a 44-year-old woman, out of nowhere. It takes time. And so it's then trying to figure all those things out. It's like, okay, well, let's see what we can do with this and how we can navigate it. So it's been amazing, but it's also been like, oh, shoot. Now I have a whole new Rubik's Cube. And I couldn't even figure out the Rubik's Cube when I was 13 and my parents gave it to me. So I'm going to keep with it, but I have to figure out, okay, what's that path forward? So It's just a new riddle.
That's fun. It's almost like, there's so many directions you could go. And it's kind of like, well, maybe now's not the season for the focus on that one. Right. But I'm still going to put it on the shelf and look at it every once in a while and appreciate it.
Yes. Well, and the interesting thing is, so there's all different kinds of applications. And I think that as a business advisor, I hear a lot people saying to me, I have an idea, but I don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, as if anyone does, it's like learning to swim. It's like, I have an idea that I could swim, but I need to know exactly how to do it. And you're going to explain it to me. It's like, you just need to get in the pool. Mm-hmm. You just need to do. And so there's something in the doing that reveals where you're meant to be. And so I feel like, am I trying to be a stand-up? Absolutely not. I already did that. I already have been in comedy condos where you might get pregnant just sitting on the couch from every male comic and whatever they have done in that room, child. But so I don't have that desire, but I feel like, how can that skill lend itself to my next book, public speaking, doing what I'm doing now? Like, how is it all connected in a way that comes full circle? And the thing is rarely the thing, and I found in life, like, you think it's going to be this thing, and then you get there and you're like, oh, shoot, it was not that thing at all. I meant to do it another way. And for some reason, that desire of curiosity that lets you just dive in. I don't know. Imagine if a baby just like, well, I'm not going to walk until someone exactly, like, it takes a lot to get, you got to keep going and falling down. It's like anything in life. So I think now that I've been doing it, now I just want to get brave and do a whole other slew of things. So, and somehow I know they're all hand in hand.
That's awesome. And I know from your book, Unverified, I listened to the audio. And so, definitely, I think those skills translate into you being the talent on that, right? You read the book. So, and that was very... Which, by the way, you saying the talent on that is you being so generous with the fact that reading an audiobook is not my core competency. So that I recognize had to have had some bumps along the way. All of this is my first time out, and I just cringe just a little bit because you are your worst critic. But I listen back to that. I'm like, oh gosh, you listened to me for 8 hours, like. God bless. We have survived something together. It was really fun, though. And I love that you are wanting it to become something else and turn into, initially you had thought it was going to possibly be a television show, right? But now you're leaning towards
Correct. So the way that the book came to be, actually, and again, this is why the thing is never the thing, is I am a big believer personally that the universe is my wing woman, that she is always, because I'm trying to vibrate on her level, she is always helping to, put the right person in the plane seats to me, put me in the right meeting seated next to the right person. Just this kismet of moments that come together. And that is, to me, feels like a really strong focus that I'm giving to vibrating in a way that helps me align to her. But there are plenty of times where that gets out of whack. And I think that the book was one of those things. I had this thought randomly of, which is so foolish, because if you work in television, anyone who works in television or anyone who works in any industry that thinks I'm going to shift gears like I've been, I don't know, a piano teacher, and now I'm going to open a restaurant. Isn't it easy? It's like, no, it's not easy, So I had one of those moments where it has been very hard to sell reality television. And with so many more people getting into scripted television, I mean, we have Jennifer Aniston, we have Adam Sandler, they're all making scripted television and streamers and all these things. I thought there's just so much more out there. Maybe I should take some of my ideas and lend them to doing scripted. And Unverified was the premise for kind of a reality show of sorts that we kind of, when you read the book and you think about where it goes in the end, you can see almost this nuggets of what was in there that we were banking on for a reality show. And I thought, well, what if I pick that apart and put it into a scripted format? And so I got a meeting with someone through a friend, and I went to the meeting, and this guy said, how'd you get this meeting? And I told him the name of the person, which was sort of code for, am I going to give you 10 seconds or a minute and 10? And he was like, okay, give it to me. And he was still on his phone looking down, which I love. And I started to pitch him, and he looked up and he said, oh, I'm going to buy this. And I was like, ooh, we're going to get a Tesla on the way home. Like, this is a glow up. And as you do when you have a unique history and background, I chose to ask him a business-minded question. And so I said, okay, that's amazing. How will we partner? And he said, I'm sorry, who the are you? And I mean, when someone curses at you in the first minute and a half of meeting them in that way, who the F are you? Mm-hmm. It's shocking and yet not. And so I did what so many women do, what I've had to do so many times in my career when I've been in the boardroom with other men, oftentimes. I entered the room as a swan, feeling my fullest and most confident, and we're going to kill it, and we're going to stick this landing, and I'm going to be like Nadia Comaneci and Bella Carol. I'm going to stick it. I'm going to get the 10. And the second that he said, who the F are you? I origamied myself into a tiny little crane, a little bird, to make myself smaller so he could know that he was the bigger, had the power in the room. And I tried to backpedal, and it wasn't working. And, he kind of started to explain entertainment to me, which I've worked in entertainment for a long time, even if it's not on the scripted side. I'm not a doorknob. Right. And, and then he, said, kind of like, you need capable hands, which you clearly are not. I mean, and then he said, you're not a writer. And he kind of went on from there, and I let him go on. And then I said, well, you know what I think? I think you forgot one word. I said, I'm not a writer yet. And I thought he was going to, like, what was that Bravo show, Real Housewives, where she flips the table? I literally thought he was going to flip the table. Like, how dare you emasculate me in my own office, by just challenging me a little bit. And I left the meeting and went in my car and cried, as you do as a strong, fierce, independent woman. Cry in public a little bit now and then, and called my friend and said, I think I just ruined your friendship connection with that guy. And to her credit, she's like, he's an asshole anyway. So she, he deserved it, and she set another meeting. And I went to that meeting, and they were much more generous, but definitely also said, you're not a writer. And so even though along the way, leading into this, I had actually told some friends, I think I want to write a book, and then put that aside, the universe was aligning. She backed me right into that corner. I thought I was going to sell the thing. That was the thing. That was the thing. And she was like, no, we're going to write a book. And so you already said you wanted to. So now I'm just, forcing you down that path. in a way that will serve you. And so I went home and started to write the book. And it wasn't until maybe a month into it that I was like, oh, this is just my wing woman rising up my vibration so we can level up towards this, and I think that you can either have, I've learned, sort of feel that the universe is conspiring against you and, feel like you're stuck in a place and you can't change and you vibrate at that level and more stuck comes your way, or you can start to feel that the universe is doing the exact opposite, but creating this inertia and momentum. And then you start to see, the trend of, oh, there's the opportunity, there's the hole, there's the where to go to walk through. And so this book to me has been a reminder of that time and time again, that when you are looking for where is the crevice or the crack to crawl through, you will always find it if you keep in search of it. And so even though it's, the book is still so new, and I self-published it, 70 rejections. I just got one 2 weeks ago. I'm like, are you even Googling me to know that I already have reviews on Amazon and I'm in the salt mines every day chasing like Goodreads reviews, no matter how mean some of the people on Goodreads can actually be? I am in there in the fight. And the answer is no, because I'm not on their trajectory. I have to keep my eyes on my own trajectory, and to know that no one can stop me from what I'm trying to do. And so that has been, we're very much in the climb, and it's grisly. It's definitely 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. But we're not getting off the mountain. We're going to the top. So that's what we're doing. So we've just got to stay in it. So
and 70 rejections is a lot. Like,
yeah, not from publishers, from agents, again,
writing agents.
I don't even get to the publishers. I mean, I could only hope that 140 of them would reject me as well. I mean, that's like, and I would still keep going, because I think I learned very early on in my career that you can't tell me no, because I will just outwork it. All these things that I have done along the way, selling TV shows, launching product lines, I was told no every single turn. And yet all those things happened. And so there was a part of me that realized along the way, as some of the early no's came in and I felt a little bit stuck, I thought, well, wait, you have not accepted a no on behalf of your clients. Why would you accept one on behalf of yourself? Why would you now be like, well, let's pack it in. Guess I'm not meant to have that. Like, why are we so willing to accept that someone else can have something and not allow it for ourselves? And so, that has been the lesson for me over and over again, is that you just have to apply again everything that you have done on behalf of your clients to yourself and be unrelenting in it. And it's hard to do, because there are plenty of days where when you get that 70th rejection, it's just like, now, is the universe as my wing woman trying to tell me something with these rejections? Or, okay, but then I just started to feel like the door was opening wider for self-publishing and for pursuing things in other ways. And then, pursuing the film in other ways, because that's where we are now, is looking for how it applies itself as a rom-com. And so it's just, maybe it was never meant to be the thing that I thought it was going to be, which is often the case. And so I think something magical happens when you let life be a bit of a discovery, and I think sometimes we forget to do that. We're so dead set on what exactly it is that we want. I want this thing done this way in this timeline. And I just think some things just take longer. Like an easy bake oven. Did you ever have an easy bake oven?
I never got one.
Okay. I never got one either because my dad was like, that's a death trap. The house is burning down. You always forget to turn off your curling. Like your mom leaves the curling iron on for 18 hours. Like you are not meant to have an easy bake oven. But someone I knew had one. And I thought it was such a sham because we made the cake and we put it in the little tin. And then we put in there, I was like, you mean that light bulb is going to cook that cake? Like, how long are we going to be here for? And the answer is a really long time. And then when you got the cake out, it wasn't even good, And that's, I feel like everything in life. Like it takes a really long time. And then the first time you do it, it's like, well, this tastes like a hockey puck. Then you have to figure out, it makes you smarter. So the next time you use different ingredients and then you use an oven and you know what I mean? You get smarter. You go from the easy bake oven to like, I don't know, the Viking, but it takes time. Like you don't get that straight out of the gate. You have to suffer the easy bake trauma of your childhood in order to get there is kind of my philosophy on life,
It kind of sounds like the first meeting you had for the book that the guy wanted to put you in an easy bake oven and you're like, no, I'm going Viking. So I understand you don't think I'm ready for that, but
Exactly.
I'm going to write my own recipe.
Exactly. I think it's I heard, is his name James Dyson, the guy who founded the Dyson vacuum. So somewhere along the line, who knew a used vacuum cleaner guy would change my life in this way? Because I've always been dedicated to doing the work that makes you an optimist. But there are plenty of days where you're like, I don't want a glass half full. I just want a whole bottle of wine. I don't need, forget the glass. Just, I need a full bottle. That's my optimism, And so, but I saw him in an interview and someone said, why do you think you've been successful? And he said, well, on any journey, we're all on this forward path. And along the way, you're walking ahead, carrying your luggage and your heavy bags, and you start to see people walking back the other direction. Those are the people who turn back. And he goes, I just never turn back. So eventually, if you just never turn back, eventually you will get there. Because I kept saying to myself, what if I turned back right now and it would have happened at the next corner? Right. What a shame to have walked this long carrying this weight and turned back one corner away. And he's like, I guess that one corner just always kept me going. And I was like, well, God damn it, Jane. I guess now I'm going to be one corner away from success as well. And I'm going to stay in it and carry your Dyson with me from house to house because now I'm in it, And that is kind of I think it's so true. You just can never, as much as some days you think, maybe this plan is not going to work. You still have to go, but Hail Mary, we're going. So
how do you do the self-care to help you sort of, recalibrate that energy to keep walking?
I am not that great at self-care lately. I feel like I've been, dropping the ball on it. I definitely am a creature of habit. So I allow myself the routines that I love and the, things like I'm a Bachelor fan and I'm a Survivor fan. As antiquated as that is, my whole family still watches Survivor and we are proud, even though we're nerds, apparently. So I still allow myself those things, but I have to say I used to swim 3 times a week and I used to go for facials. And now so much of my life has become about how am I funneling this book forward. And so my focus has been on almost like that dedication to that is what I'm so focused on that I don't want to take my eyes off the prize. But recently I've been feeling like, okay, the cortisol levels are high and I feel as if like belly fat is a real thing and I need to move my body more. So I feel like I'm now getting, again, the universe is kind of giving me those moments of like, you will feel better if you get back to some of these things. So now I'm renewing that commitment to give myself the space for that, because I surprisingly though, am someone who, before I adopted my dog, people had told me, you work too much, you can't have a dog. You travel too much, you can't have a dog. And my friend Leslie said to me, wow, that makes me really sad. If you are too busy for a dog, then you must be too busy for your life. And I feel like, how sad is that? That doesn't seem right. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And shortly thereafter, I rescued my dog. And when that happened, I kind of, as they say, rescued myself, because before that I was really a workaholic. And now I work still, but I work a lot, but I work smartly. And even though I work from home, I stop every day at 5 to walk my dog and cook dinner. And so it's not periodic self-care. It's consistent sleep and those things that I still make time for. But I think our modern term of self-care, I'm not that great at.
But I think that the most important thing is the habitual stuff, right?
Yes.
And it sounds like, you are doing that with the, I love that with the doggy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, switching gears again. I'm so excited for the book, and I'm excited that you're seeing it as a movie. When I was listening to, I think within the first, 2 minutes, I was like, this is totally a book. I'm like feeling Devil Wears Prada, this kind of thing. So I'm really excited for you to keep going and see where the journey takes you.
Yeah, I'm actually right now, first of all, thank you. That means so much to me that it would give you those vibes, because when I was writing it, I think people thought when I first said I was going to write a book, there was a faction of people who felt my company's name and my Instagram handle is All Moxie. And I feel that people maybe wanted some of what they call my Moxie-isms. And so like an entrepreneurial sort of, girl coach in a kimono sort of a vibe, like your halftime pep talk, but in a girl with a smoky eye and a cowgirl hat, which is kind of sums me up. That would be what I would write. And when I said, no, I'm going to write a rom-com, they were still excited, because I think they see me as a storyteller as well. At the end of the day, someone that they love to talk to because of that storied side of me. But I had said to them, I just feel like we are missing good rom-coms. Really, we had not at the time had one since Devil Wears Prada. And before that, it had really been a drought since we had Can't Buy Me Love or
you're going way back.
Mystic Pizza, or some of the ones that felt really iconic. Mm-hmm. And there were two things that my mom and I always did growing up. One is, every time we got a catalog, we would go through the pages and circle which one we would want. Like, oh, I want that ring, or I want that coat. And not in a way that fueled consumerism. Uh-huh. She wasn't that way. In a way that more was a discussion about personal style. Mm. How would you wear it? And what would you what kind of woman would you be with that? It was a lot more creative, which now serves me so well. Also, I'm an ultimate consumer, and I would happily be like Gucci gang all day long. So it did fuel that too, Mom, whether you wanted it to or not. And I still do it to this day in every magazine and catalog. What would you get? But it really gave me this sense of my own style. And we also would watch rom-coms like on free HBO weekends, or, and so I gained a real appreciation for the art form. And I think it gets a bit of a dirty rap. I mean, I think that we all, of course, love amazing dramas and Joker and all of these amazing films that Hollywood is producing. But there's also a need for more laughter. And it is so hard to write comedy that can connect and not feel schmaltzy or not feel slapstick, and to write characters that can be sarcastic, but in a way that feels relevant. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Devil Wears Prada does that. So that to me is such high praise when someone says that. But I am now in the process of writing the flow for what the film could be. So that way in the talks that we're having with production companies, that they can get an appreciation for that. And it's amazing. Some of them, one conversation we're having in particular, they have sort of been really encouraging me down that path. And that feels amazing as a female writer, because this all started with a man, saying to me, "You're not a writer, and you're not going to be, and stay in your lane." And now to have someone say, no, get out. You wrote the book. Keep going, get on the freeway with it. Forget the lane you think you're on, that you're climbing up the mountain. Get on the freeway, girl. Like, let's go. That to me is just terrifying and amazing. And another part of this, trying to be brave and trying to not psych yourself out to go, okay, we're going to do it. So yeah, so that's what we're manifesting. That and book 2. So that way you can have that journey too.
Fun. I wanted to know the process of writing. Can we talk about that a little bit, what that was like for you? It sounded very interesting when we previously heard about it at book club. So yes, for all of you listening, Kristin came to a book club that I'm a part of. And so it was really fun to have read the book and then get to have the author there. So thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's my secret love. I will come to practically anyone's house who has read the book if they want to tell me how much they love the book. And my mother would like to be Skyped in as well, because much like picking out our favorite things from the pages of catalogs, our new obsession is people telling her and me how much they love the book. I mean, it's like the biggest level of narcissism that you could ask for. But when you are self-published, it's not like I can just go into a Barnes and Noble and people are discovering it. I am literally, the only way the book got in your hand was because I had an interaction with someone from your book club to tell them about the book. So it's literally that grassroots climbing the mountain, up the side. And so one, I'm so grateful to have that opportunity and to hold space with people who've read it, because I don't always get that amazing chance. And 2, I just have to say kudos to you guys for having such a cool book club, because so many people that have reached out to me that have book clubs are like, well, we used to have 10 people, but now we only have 2, but we're going to read it. It's so hard to keep people coming together in community like that. So I think it's amazing that you guys have had that journey together. And I think that to me felt really special, I have to say. But writing the book is probably, when you watch a TV show and the girl is asked, like, how does she keep her skin? And she's like, oh, I just drink. And just drink a little water. And I've been just using, this one cream that my mom used. That's it. And it's like, I'm going to claw your eyes out. Like, I'm literally pickling myself in hyaluronic acid and I can't stop the aging process. I feel like that is going to be my answer, which is totally annoying about the book. And that is because I went to school to be a speechwriter. You are taught to write fast and on command and amongst chaos, and then rewrite and keep moving. So even if you hate something, you get it down, you get it to a point where you think it is, and you move and then come back to it, because trying to force it better in that moment sometimes makes it worse. And so, all of those techniques are what I adhered to when I was writing this book. So I wrote the book in between. I actually started the book when one of my longest employees was on maternity leave. So she called me and was like, oh, I have this baby. I was like, great. I wrote a book more about me. It was like the most ridiculous thing. And so then when she came back, I would write a chapter and then call her and read it to her, and then call and read it to my mom, and then move on to the next chapter. Mm-hmm. And so what's interesting is, I think because she is younger than me, Erin is, and so she's in her 30s. And so you had someone younger than me hearing it, and then you had someone older than me hearing it. And so I think the interesting thing is even though the book talks a lot, the 2 main characters are 26. Mm-hmm. You don't really think of them as 26 when you're reading it. They somehow feel a bit more universal. Like they could be younger or they could be older, but you're more invested in the experience of what they're having, I think. And I think that was partially because I had to have it feel young enough for the young set to enjoy it, and explained enough for my mother, who was like, what does this term mean? SMH, and I'm like, shake my head, mother. That's what it means. But, I had to take that into consideration of, I have to have language that they can understand as well without it feeling so explained to a 20-year-old who's reading the book and be like, this is lame. Does she not think that we know what social media is? So it was that kind of balance amongst it. But I did definitely rely on my speech writing history to turn it on. And I recognize that a lot of other artists don't know where that on and off switch is. And I actually am very grateful to my professors for helping me identify that. Because I actually think that artists could identify a bit more where that on and off switch is if there was a bit more that tools that were given to them to identify it, and then how to utilize it in that way, because it was so useful to me to know that. And it has served me so well to use it, as opposed to some artists. I know they're seeking inspiration,
right,
for so long before they can even begin their work. And I started, my professor was sort of like, inspiration is a bit of a trap. It's a trap. It's like a bear claw that you're hoping you stumble into, and then it gets you, and then you can do it. That we can't have that be your process. Your process has to be
not reliable, right?
Not reliable. And and you have to be able to just find it amongst yourself. So that has served me well. But it's not to say that I am constantly I'm cataloging inspiration constantly for me to rely on. Things I see in a grocery store, traveling, things I overhear, destinations, locales, all of those things become a part of the catalog in my brain that then I can pour out in other ways. And I think that that's why the book might have a visual element to it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that read it say to me, I felt like I was watching it as mm-hmm. much as reading it. And that felt unique. I didn't know that I had not had that experience in reading a book in quite a while. So that makes me feel really hopeful that I, could mm-hmm. do that, not only in this book, but in future books.
And how did you push yourself did you write every day? I guess we didn't really talk about that part.
No, there were some days where I couldn't write, but I definitely, and there were some days where I thought I would have time to write, and then the characters just I just couldn't force them.
They
didn't cooperate as much. So but that was okay. I mean, I think that that's the other thing too, is that it was more about being prolific in a manner that could allow me to set a pace for the book. But I did not set a destination like, I wrote the book in 3 months, but it took about 6 months to then refine and edit. Because when I wrote the book initially, I had 113,000 words, and then I had to call it back down a little bit. So, but no, I didn't write every day. I just couldn't with work and different things to be able to do it. And surprisingly, everyone said, and this is maybe the curse of learning the speech writing, they were like, oh, but I bet you wrote a lot on the weekends. It's like, no, I didn't. One, it didn't serve me because I mm-hmm. still wanted to live my life and in order to be interesting in any profession or experience, you have to be living life, right. So I didn't write a lot on the weekends. I wrote really 9 to 5 in between when I maybe should have been doing other things. And I was like, Erin, I'm going to need you to do these 8 things because I'm trying to write this chapter. So, yeah.
I love that you just kind of made it happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's I know some different writers who've said, I can't write in my house. I'm like, what? How does that work? I don't know. I mean, I guess I can't I do have to set the stage for what I'm going to write. Like I definitely have a bit of again, like everything, a habit to what I do. And that was one of the cornerstones.
Right.
You create, the steps, kind of like if you want to work out, laying your clothes out the night before, setting, making the class, doing the thing. So that way it's like you set yourself up to be committed to it, because
right.
none of it is motivation. It's commitment, And so I go through the steps just like I always did then to ensure that I was consistently committed to the work that needed to be done. And that served me well. So I would turn on, like I listened to a lot of Yanni, like when everyone else was doing their 2019 Spotify Who You Were, I was an elevator because it was like classical and Yanni and like wave, jazz. And I'm like, what is this? What was I? And then I realized, I was writing a book. And so I needed music that didn't take my brain to other things.
Right.
And then I tried to make smart choices. Like a lot of people, even in my day job of designing product, people would say, you must go to all the trade shows. And it's like, no, I didn't go to any of them, because sometimes when you go look at what everyone else is doing, one, you compare and then you copy. And if you truly are trying to forge a new ground, you need to tune into your heart and your gut of what do you feel is the next trend? What do you feel will serve the home next, or fashion? And so I didn't go scout in that way for developing product, because you want it to be ahead of the curve, not trailing it.
Right.
And so I did that too with the book. Like I kind of quieted. I didn't read a ton of other books while I was writing, because I found then that you pick up on other moments that maybe deter you, because you think, oddly, that book did that. Now that I know it, I shouldn't go that way. But, it's just better to not have sometimes an awareness of what other people are doing. You keep your eyes on your own page a little bit. And that serves me well as well in the process.
Good. And I wanted to ask a question about sisterhood, because that's one of sort of the themes of Peace, Love, and Wine, the podcast, and my life as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to just tell me a little bit about sisterhood in your life and what that means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has been an interesting journey living in Los Angeles, because it has definitely made me aware of how important my sisterhood is, because it feels like such a solitary, because people are kind of very much eyes on their own paper and focused on themselves a lot in Los Angeles in a way that isn't always healthy. It's a little bit more self-absorbed sometimes. And so I have become aware of just how important the women in my life are. Several of them live here, but many of them live in other cities. And they were the ones who I was reaching out to first with the updates and supporting me when I did stand up. They were the ones who were hoping to fly in and, find babysitters for their kids. And sisterhood for me has always been so important, whether they're friends or not. I have always, when you grow up in Ohio, you're not, even if you're not a Girl Scout, you're still kind of a Girl Scout. Like I was raised to help out your neighbor, figure out how you can be of service. If you see someone who needs something on the street, you are helping them. And so I've very much approached business that way, and have always been the one to try and turn up for other women in the boardroom and in business, because unfortunately, that has not always been the case. Right. I've been in a lot of situations where, one, I was the only woman in the room, or two, even if I was the most powerful woman in the room, I needed to still be origamied into the little crane because of how the men were behaving. And so it made me very aware of how to help other women out and how to encourage other women to want to be in sisterhood with me. So it's been an important theme over all these years of how can we really support one another. And that sisterhood, as I've been writing the book, they've been the first ones to say, okay, I'm going to throw you a book event. Come here. I'm going to invite my friends. I'm going to help you spread the word about it, which has really been amazing. Like the book club that I came to, the sisterhood, that was another example of another woman who appeared. You know, I think in life, you kind of think, you think certain people might show up, and when they don't, you're hurt. But what is always so surprising is the people who you never knew would come that were there. And that is the miracle. And that's the sisterhood that I rely on.
Awesome. Any final words for people women especially, who want to tap into their creativity? Maybe they're feeling some fear about it, and they could use some of your universe awesomeness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, don't psych yourself out. You know, we all start finding a litany of reasons why we shouldn't pursue something, and that maybe it won't work, or maybe we won't be good at it. Maybe you not being good at that thing is exactly what will lead you to the thing that you wouldn't have discovered. So I would say start where you are, lean in, put one word on a page, put one brush stroke to the page, whatever it is. Be brave and just go there. You know, my brother once said to me, and he was wanting to be supportive, but we were talking about the fact that I am single, which I still am single, but he was like, maybe just don't be so weird, you know? And I was like, well, okay, let's play this theory out. Like, so am I going to not be weird for like the first 2 years of the marriage? And then suddenly I'm like, hey, here's something you should know about me. It's like, I actually am like a cowboy boot, kimono wearing, giant jewelry. But I know I've been an Ann Taylor sweater set for the last 2 years, but surprise, this is who I am. Like, I don't know how that really works for me. And so I guess whatever your weird is, even though there is this thought of like people might be judging or noticing, they're judging or noticing whether or not you're doing it. So you might as well do it. That's my philosophy.
That's a good one.
Amazing.
So people who want to check out the book, where can they find it? Where can they find you?
They can find me at Allmoxie, ALLMOXIE. It's my Instagram handle, and that's where my world is.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing a piece of your world with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I got to join.
Me too. Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, Mermaid, and any mermen and pirates who might be lurking around. Thank you so much for listening. If you've been enjoying the show, I'd love to invite you to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/peaceloveandwine. There you can find ways to support the show through our virtual tip jar / micro sponsorship and membership in the official Peace, Love, and Wine Club. You'll find different tiers with different benefits, such as getting your name in the show notes, getting a handwritten letter from yours truly, and getting a shout out on the podcast itself. Additionally, we are adding some fun tiers with my new burlesque behind the scenes adventures, where you'll get access to photos, blog posts, and videos that will not be shown to the general public. So if any of that sounds like fun to you, if you've ever had a laugh or gained some wisdom or insight from the show, I'd appreciate if you could take the time to check us out over at Patreon and see if that's something that you might be open to participating in. As we get more founding patron members, we will add more fun things too, possibly things like virtual happy hours where we meet virtually and enjoy a drink and conversation together. So I'm curious to hear what you'd like to see. You can always email me, info@peaceloveandwine.com. And again, check it out in the show notes, patreon.com/peaceloveandwine.